Imagine it. It's 1797. The presidency of George Washington has just ended. And during that time, we saw the French Revolution start and stop, the death of both the King and Queen of France. And now we're in what's known as the era of Napoleon. As a royal of his own making, Napoleon is expanding territory. He now has Venice and some territory given to him by the Pope. Elsewhere in the world, the modern Italian flag has made its debut. 41,000 people died from an earthquake in Ecuador. First top hat is worn in London. And the first cast iron plow is patented. It's not sellable, but it is patented. Also, Trinidad in the West Indies have become part of the British Empire, taken by a man named Abercrombie, who actually goes on to attack Puerto Rico later. And finally, the United States has officially elected its second president ever, Federalist John Adams. The first vice president under Washington became the second president, and his entire presidency is overshadowed by France. And that has a lot to do with the French Revolution, with the American Revolution, the war between Britain and France, and the war that we almost get into later on. We were doing our best to stay out of the conflict between Britain and France. We had beef with Britain, obviously, and France wasn't our biggest friend at the moment. They had their own stuff going on, and they were across the ocean. But they were causing problems with us, both countries, because while they were warring with each other, they weren't letting us in the water. It was causing a lot of problems. So Adams, that's the mess that he kind of steps into. And this is a mess that will plague the rest of his presidency in some form, because later on, we have a thing called the XYZ affair. What that was Adams sends 3 men, delegates from America, to kind of smooth things over. There's been a lot of awkwardness, and so he wanted to basically cool our relationship to a happy place. But when our delegates got there, there was a weird thing where they were asking for a bribe and they wanted a loan, and there was just all these things that was keeping the delegates from being able to talk to the foreign minister. So they let Adams know what was going on, and he was extremely offended by it. In fact, XYZ is how people refer to the French, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. While in office, he had some important legislation. One was the Naturalization Act, which essentially expanded the amount of years needed to naturalize as to become an American citizen. So before it was 5 years, now it's 14. The other thing that he's well known for is the Alien and Sedation Act. And that was essentially created to keep the French from immigrating to the United States. That's how tense the relationship got between America and France at the time. But also part of that act was your inability to talk bad about the government, which is weird that Adams wanted that, signed that, passed that, because very recently there was a reason that we split off from England. We didn't like the fact that we didn't have rights and things like that. But now they weren't wanting criticism of the government. Adams, soared in popularity, and funny enough, he did not win re-election. The second president ever did not win re-election. He lost to Thomas Jefferson, and Thomas Jefferson saw that he was at his height of popularity due to the XYZ affair because of his very staunch response and trying to smooth things over, but he did not appreciate and made it known how he felt about how the French were treating us, essentially. John Adams was the first president to move into the president's home, now the White House, which is sad because he moved in November of 1801, lost the election, 1800, he lost the election, and then moved out like 4 months later when Thomas Jefferson moved in. Funny thing about him and Thomas Jefferson, though, is they had a heated, but yet very passionate and long-lasting rivalry with each other. Their views were so different. For example, speaking of the weirdness about not wanting criticism from the government, Adams is one of the people who wanted George Washington to be called Your Highness, referred to as Your Highness. Which is again surprising, but Thomas Jefferson did not agree. That's just one point they didn't agree on. Their relationship went on until they died. They both died on July 4th, and Adams' last words were, "Thomas Jefferson survives." He died believing that, like, damn it, he's still alive. The truth was, Thomas Jefferson had died a few hours earlier, but they both died poignantly on July 4th. John Adams is remembered in history as the father of American independence. He was one of the very few never enslaved anyone. In fact, he believed that America would not truly finish the revolution until all people were free, including enslaved people.